these portable computing devices about what they're seeing on the moon. As you heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, this block is also when we lose communications with the crew. That LOS or loss of signal scheduled to be less than 35 minutes from now. We anticipate to be out of signal with them for about 40 minutes 35 minutes from that communication once they've flown around the other side of the moon. With them for about 40 minutes, and we'll regain that communication once they've flown around the other side of the moon. Now, even though the crew will be flying behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations. Even though the crew will be flying behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations, which we have previously seen. They are seeing. They'll swap positions at the window before moving into a crew choice option. Set, and then get to crater, which things that are interesting to them on the surface. Take pictures and explain why they find them before moving into a also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the surface, lunar surface, caused by impact bombardment. Explain why they find them that way. They'll also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the lunar surface caused by impact bombardment. Just before Earthrise, the crew will be looking for lofted lunar dust. This may be lofted just above the lunar surface, and we could only see it just before Earthrise, along the dark western limb. Any Earthshine would illuminate potential lofted dust. But once the crew is all the way around the Earth, once the brightness of the Earth will wash out any of that dust they might be able to see. These were based on observations from Apollo missions and orbital spacecraft. We're very interested to see if the crew might be able to capture some of that lunar dust today. Following that lofted lunar dust target, the next will be Earthrise. The next will be Earthrise. Communications with the crew shortly after Earthrise. There will be a short observation break period where the moon is not in view. That's because we are also anticipating the crew seeing an eclipse today. The moon won't be in view because the team here in Mission Control Houston will need to change the attitude of the spacecraft and ensure that its solar arrays and ensure gathering light from the sun are heading into that eclipse period. So we will have communication with the crew. We just won't be able to see the moon. We just won't be able to see the moon. However, we will have views during that eclipse time frame. During that time frame, science team is looking to know. It will only be illuminated by Earthshine at that point. So they want to know what the whole moon. They also want the crew to look into deep space. They also want the crew to look and see if they can spot any planets. Once the eclipse is over, the lunar flyby period will have ended. We are live through the whole thing, and even once flyby is over today, we remain live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube.
Go ahead.
I don't know if Catherine and Devin are still there, but if they are, I just wanted to come on Rabbit out here. It's extraordinary to be on the far side of the American now, just hanging out here and looking back in the earth in Canada, but if you happen to be watching too, just wanted to say hi to all you guys, love you guys, just wanted to say hi to all you guys, love you guys. We'll be heading back your way shortly.
Thanks, Jeremy. I hear they Thanks, Jeremy. I hear they are watching, and your family is still here. So thanks for passing that along.
This view inside the Orion spacecraft, and it's a little hard to make out, but on the left there, that is Jeremy Hansen, just calling down some well wishes to his family, joining us in the viewing room and watching joining us in the viewing room and watching online. Currently in the window are Victor Glover and Victor Glover taking pictures outside of the window. They are taking pictures outside of the window as they are now in their flyby observation block. At this time, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen are serving as Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen are serving as support crew members, to have an opportunity to enjoy their midday meal at this time. On the lunch menu today for Jeremy Hansen, we have vegetarian chili, salmon croquettes, chicken with peanut sauce, salmon croquettes, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, sweet and savory kale, pudding, pickled beets, barbecue chocolate brisket, spaghetti and meat sauce, Italian vegetables, butternut squash, Italian vegetables, butternut chocolates, and maybe even a little bit of coffee. And if you look closely, you can see it looks like they are getting into some of their food for the midday meal. The spacecraft is rehydratable. We don't have an option for fresh food. There's not a refrigerated food section of the Orion spacecraft. So all of this food can either be rehydrated or eaten straight from the package. Just depends on what the food actually is. Just depends on what the food actually is. There is information on each package of how much water needs to fill each package, of how much water and what temperature it needs to be. That bag and what temperature it needs to be. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, 40 minutes actually, 39 minutes into the flight of Artemis 2. The spacecraft now under 4,500 miles from the moon. 4,500 miles from the moon. We are now also under 30 minutes away. We are now also under 30 minutes away from. We will regain that communication about 40 minutes later. About 40 minutes later. They will still be photographing the moon. They will still be documenting what they're seeing and documenting what they're seeing while they're behind the moon. And we especially look forward to potential Earthsat and Earthrise views. As you can see on the left side of your screen, we are streaming this solar array camera. The science team also plans to capture an occasional still photo intermittently, perhaps one every 8 to 10 minutes. Perhaps still photos represent the highest resolution imagery from those GoPro cameras. So starting 5 minutes before Earthsat and loss of signal, the science team will capture a series of photos, one every 30 seconds, to include Earthsat all the way through 5 minutes after Earthrise and acquisition of signal. In order to capture these frequent photos, the solar array camera that we were streaming will need to switch to time-lapse photo mode. So during this time, the streaming video quality won't be as sharp as you have it right now, but we want to ensure that the science team captures the data they need during these time frames. And we really look forward to seeing those higher resolution images once they're available. But with the view you are seeing right now, we are sharing bandwidth on the Orion spacecraft with every system. spacecraft keeping the spacecraft powered and the crew keeping the spacecraft powered and the crew alive. Control and life support system, as this is the first life support system, as this is the first flight of a life support system. This is also the first flight of a life support system on the way to the moon and the way home. Safe on the way to the moon and the way home. On the timeline, we're getting towards the end of the cabin and window team swap period, our astronauts, Victor Glover and Christina Cook, are already photographing the moon outside of those windows. The next target is Ohm crater, and this is something that they have photographed previously during the flyby. This is a small complex crater with a prominent ray system. Crater, as referenced earlier, it's the size of the eye of the Sahara. It's the size of the eye of the Sahara. That eye of the Sahara is a feature in Mauritania. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the flyby allows the crew to photograph it at different lighting conditions. Those different lighting conditions help expose different portions of the target, and can help the science team learn a little bit more about how it formed and what it is today. Again, this view inside the spacecraft as the moon outside their windows. They have turned the lights off to allow them to better get photos of the moon, preventing any reflections from coming in from the spacecraft. We expect the crew to be targeting Ohm Crater for another 6 minutes or so before they move into a discussion Now, the science team has asked for a science sit rep or situation report during that time, so we hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing. We hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing. If you've been following along at the start of the day, we did have much more of the moon and even visible. Just an hour or so ago, we could see about half of the moon. We are now continuing to see more of the far side, in that darkness, where the moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Earlier, we were also able to see some of those darker lava portions that we often see on the near side of the moon, and that we can all see on the near side of the moon. That has mostly gone away. That has mostly gone away. Very little. We are now just seeing that's down to the bottom right of the moon. You can see down to the bottom right portion near the limb. Just a small dark portion near the limb. We are now about 18 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion crew. Again, we use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the crew members when they are this far from Earth. This is the first mission since Apollo. This is the first mission on the Deep Space Network. When we have had humans on the Deep Space Network. As you recently heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, we expect their closest approach to the moon to be at NET or mission elapsed time of 5 days or mission elapsed time of 5 days, 25 minutes, 34 seconds. 25 minutes at that time, their altitude would be 4,067 statute miles above the Earth's surface. Just over 2 minutes later, they will reach their maximum distance from Earth. At mission elapsed time, 5 minutes. At mission elapsed time, 27 minutes and 39 seconds. 27 minutes and 39 seconds. The altitude at that time would be 252,756 statute miles. These are our latest numbers, and we'll make sure to verify and confirm those once those milestones have been achieved. Once those milestones have been achieved, without communication to the spacecraft at that time. So once we regain communication, we will make sure to find out those numbers and report those to you. Find out those numbers and report those to you. Checking in on the lunar targeting package. Checking in on the lunar targeting package. The crew is now in their discussion of the limb, seeing the limb of the that illuminated part. That illuminated currently part. At the windows taking photos and currently at the windows are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. Annotations are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. Loss of signal in about 13 minutes. Loss of signal in about 13 minutes. We will regain that signal with the crew about 40 minutes later. A milestone worth mentioning that this day marks the first time in more than 50 years that humans will observe the moon directly. Humans will observe the moon opportunity to practice how lunar science will be conducted during future Artemis missions. I've continued to reference the lunar targeting package throughout this broadcast, which is the primary tool guiding the crew observations, and that consists of two key components. The first of those is the lunar geography review, which helps the astronauts study major lunar features in advance. That also helps them learn to orient themselves during the flyby. The lunar targeting plan provides a detailed timeline of observation targets, background science context, and specific instructions for the picture the crew should take, and verbal descriptions of what will be helpful to the science team reviewing those pictures later. That's what we've been tracking real time, and what the crew is using right now to keep up with their next milestones.
Integrity Houston, 10 minutes till the LOS. We'll take a 10 minutes till the LOS from the cabin if you have one. Snappy sit rep from the cabin if you have one.
Okay, Jenny, that came, we missed most of that, but just a 10-minute warning. We missed most of that, but just a 10-minute warning.
10-minute warning for the LOS, and I'll take a 10-minute warning for the LOS, and I'll take a quick sit rep from the cabin, please.
All right, cabin is still full of excitement. Cabin is still full of excitement. We've got Christina in window 2, window 3, Reed's actually been trying to get some images out of the docking tunnel. We get some images out of the docking tunnel. We can see part of the moon out of the docking tunnel, which is pretty good. Part of the moon out of the docking tunnel, which is pretty good now. And I'm just with some interior cameras now, with our interior cameras.
Copy, Jeremy. We'd like to know what camera Reed is using. We'd like to know what camera Reed is using. Window 1 looks like there might be a window 1 looks like there might be a shroud removed.
Okay. Reed was using the Z9. Reed was using the Z9. And the T-shirt shroud is still on window 1, but we took the shroud is still on window 1, but we took the camera out of it. When I looked in there, I saw a lot of sunlight reflecting around. I saw a lot of sunlight reflecting around.
Copy. That makes a lot of sense to us, Jeremy. Copy. That makes a lot of sense to us, Jeremy. Coming up on this LOS, I want to remind you, coming up on this LOS, it will take rep more and more of the and as more and more of the darkness, we will take any report you have. We will take any report you have on impact flashes.
All right, Jenny, you have to say again your last. There's a lot of conversation here. There's a lot of conversation. I missed all of it. I was on the other side of the cabin, so I missed all of it.
Look out for impact flashes, and we'll take sit reps in the blind. Look out for impact flashes, and we'll take sit reps in the blind.
Okay, impact flashes, sit reps in the blind. We got it. And yeah, just so you understand what's going on with window one. Just so you understand what's going on with window one through the outer hall, from window the outer hall, from window the inside of window one, if that makes sense. Like the inside of window one, if that makes sense. When I look between the two panes of glass. When I look between the two panes of glass.
Copy. Copy.
You're getting your first live look at Orion, live the moon, at Orion, the moon, everyone and in this picture. Everyone in this picture. This is a live view from the Orion spacecraft. Currently aboard Orion, 4 crew members. Currently aboard Reed Wiseman, 4 Victor crew members. Reed Christina Wiseman, Cook, Victor Jeremy Hansen. Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen. And on the Earth, all of us. And on the Earth, of humanity. All of us. All of humanity. You can see the moon is starting to get a little bit dimmer. You can see the moon is starting to get a little bit dimmer. Pass behind the astronauts are now going to pass behind 26 seconds away from that loss of 26 seconds away. Again, we will be out of communication with them. Again, we will be out of communication with them until they come around the other side of the moon. Until they come around the other side of the moon, and we can reestablish contact.
Integrity Houston. You are 6 minutes from your 40-minute lunar flyby LOS. From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And thank you to all of you for allowing us the image to be on this journey together. Quite amazing. And as we go on this journey, thinking about the NASA mission to explore the unknown there in space, to innovate for humanity, inspire the world to discovery. Gone along with us. Hopefully we're doing just those things. And as we get close to the moon and farthest from Earth, as we continue to unlock the mystery of the cosmos, I would like to remind you of one of the most mysteries there on Earth, and that's love. Christ said in response to what was commanded, that it was to love God you are. And he also teacher said this is equal to it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so as we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth, and to all of you down there on Earth. And around Earth, we love you from the moon.
Houston copy. We'll see you on the other side.
We will see you on the other side.
Poignant words from NASA astronaut Victor Glover. And a little bit of a love letter from the other side of the moon all the way to Earth. Glover touching on the teachings of Jesus, including to love your neighbor as yourself. We are now less than 3 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion astronauts. The Artemis 2 crew will be out of signal for about 40 minutes as they are on the other side of the moon, continuing their work photographing the lunar surface. And they will reemerge, and we will also get this view on the other side. Just about a minute and a half now until we lose communication with the astronauts aboard Orion on the Artemis 2 mission. Now, 5 days and 6 minutes since their launch on April 1st. Again, we'll be out of communication for about 40 minutes. And this really beautiful view of a crescent moon and a crescent Earth. How great thou art. Thirty seconds now until we expect loss of signal. And we have confirmation of loss of signal of the Orion spacecraft as it flies behind the moon. We expect to regain communications with them for in another approximately 40 minutes. This was expected as their spacecraft is now out of direct line of sight with and behind the moon. This is a poignant moment as it's the first time in over 50 years that we have humans completely unreachable by anyone else on Earth. No matter how distant or secluded, we could reach anyone living on Earth. But while the crew flies behind the moon, it's simply impossible to make contact with them. This is a live view inside the science evaluation room here at Johnson Space Center and just down the hall from Mission Control. This team has been monitoring the science flyby all day as the team has continued capturing targets on the lunar surface. We even got to see this team in action as they were helping the astronauts identify some of the features they were seeing on the moon but not expecting. There will be a couple of milestones during this loss of signal. The first will be when the astronauts make their closest approach of the moon at MET 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. When we expect they'll be 4,067 statute miles above the lunar surface. Their maximum altitude will be reached just 2 minutes later at 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds. When their altitude should be approximately 252,756 statute miles. Once those milestones are reached and we have confirmation, we will report the official numbers. Throughout the Artemis 2 mission, astronaut voice, images, video, and vital mission data must traverse thousands of miles, carried on signals from NASA's powerful communication systems, the Near Space Network, and the Deep Space Network. Let's learn a little bit more.
NASA's Artemis 2 sent 4 astronauts around the moon, preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where mission control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the two networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communication support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens, and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis 2 mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve each moon mission. With the Artemis 2 test flight, we're evaluating communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
We are now about 33 minutes until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion. And in the meantime, I've got Dr. Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead here with us. Thanks for joining me, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. This is such an exciting day. Thanks for having me.
This is such an exciting day.
To hear you communicating
It has been so cool to hear you communicating and I know that you have been preparing for this for years, so I am so excited for you and for your team. So I am so excited for you and for your team. Background a little bit. Tell me about your background and what you've been doing on your background and what you've been doing on
console. My background is as a field geologist. My background is as a field geologist.
Impact cratering in the field for my PhD.
I studied impact cratering in the field for my PhD. So all these descriptions of impact craters have me just absolutely swooning. How I got into this, though, is during my PhD, I got an internship during my PhD. I got an internship to integrate science into flight operations. So we developed the science officer console, for which developed the first mission we're supporting, for which we developed the science evaluation room that's right upstairs. We developed the science evaluation room that's right upstairs. And so this operation structure come to fruition, operation structure come to fruition, especially on a daily today.
So, and we've got a great view of the science evaluation room right now. Is there anything that has stood out to your team so far? Is there anything that has stood out to your team so far?
Absolutely. So as you might have heard in some of the press briefings and content that we've been putting out, color and albedo were really exciting targets for us. We've heard several amazing color descriptions so far. Amazing color descriptions so far. Maybe one of them. We heard about greenish and brownish hues. We heard about greenish and brownish, which is actually a feature that we can see here from the near side. And those greenish hues could actually tell us something about the volcanic evolution of that area. So you can bet that the science team is going to be prioritizing downlinking those images and the crew audio that we didn't hear and the crew audio that we didn't hear that went into those recordings to learn a little bit more.
That is fascinating. I was hearing those colors and very interesting. I was hearing those colors and very interesting. Just from a personal standpoint, because 250,000 miles away, we don't see green or brown. So just hearing that we don't see green or brown. So just getting to see that, them being fascinating, and I know it's very exciting for you. Fascinating, and I know it's very exciting for you. So what do you expect upcoming portion of the flyby? Upcoming portion of the flyby
is actually going to be really exciting. So right now, as we speak, so right now, folks in the room are kind of taking their stretch breaks and everything. Their stretch breaks and everything. They still have targets to image and describe. They still have targets to image and describe during this LOS. The first thing, of course, we're going to hear about is Earth. The first thing, of course, we're looking forward to hearing about the crew's experience with something that we can connect with, experience with something that we can connect with, such amazing images from Apollo 8 brought us such amazing images from. Describing the Terminator. As well as looking for things like lofted as well as looking for things like the modern lunar environment, which tell us about the modern lunar environment. Orient away from the moon for an hour and then pivot back for the eclipse observations, which is a whole different set of science observations that we're really looking forward to. It's kind of nice that the crew will get a little break in there because they have been hitting it hard in there because they have been hitting it hard today with annotations, photos and videos and annotations. The crew sees coming up. Is it that lunar dust the crew sees coming up? Is it that lunar dust? That's a hard question to answer. I mean, we've already gotten such great descriptions. I mean, the Terminator seems to just be like one of their favorite things to look at and describe. One of their favorite things to look at and describe. So I feel like we really that was something we were looking forward to. I feel like we really got some great description. I'm looking to the human moment. Absolutely, I'm looking to the human moment. Lofted dust is an exciting one, and lofted dust is an exciting one, and lofted dust will be a target for them right after Earthrise, but right around the time of Earth period. But again, so I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, they've already highlighted just in the course of their flyby so far how the moon just in the course of their flyby so far. How the moon this is going to be an even more dramatic change. This is going to go from their even more dramatic change to go from their illuminated piece of the flyby into the eclipse time frame. And I can tell you they're going to be experiencing a very different they're going to be experiencing a very different and I can't wait to hear what their observations are. And I can't wait to hear what their observations are.
And what that's absolutely fascinating that we get to do that on this mission. Privilege that we get to do that on this mission because if we had launched on a different day other than April 1st or 2nd, we wouldn't have gotten to see that eclipse. Is that right? We wouldn't have gotten to see that eclipse. April 1st and 2nd. That's correct. I will say, April 1st and 2nd, I was asked a lot in the weeks leading up to the launch. I was asked a lot in the weeks leading up to the launch. And my answer truly was, there is no bad day to launch to the moon. My answer truly was, there is no bad day to launch to the moon. Out of it, no matter what. But it's a really neat opportunity no matter what. But it's a really neat opportunity to bring different planetary bodies into the picture, bring different planetary bodies into the picture, while still literally keeping the moon in center stage. So what differences are we looking for at differences? Are we looking for at terms? We're looking at a lot of different different terms. What are the different craters that you're looking at mare? What are the differences?
We do have, as you highlight, kind of different prompts for each target. That's what they're looking at in their lunar targeting plan, which I know you've been showing. And we have even different prompts for the person with the really long lens on the camera versus the really long lens on the unaided eye. And you've heard the crew talk about the unaided eye. Oh my goodness, when I go from one to the other, oh my goodness, when I go from one to the other, I can really detect different nuances in simulations. And that's something hearing them actually in simulations for real has been really gratifying. But we're looking for different things based on the target. Sometimes we're looking for different things based on the target. Sometimes we're looking for the Terminator. We're looking at for the Terminator. We're looking at texture and morphologies pop out to you, and what kind of diversity you see on the Terminator, and what kind of diversity you see on the Terminator. Victor especially makes some comments about future impacts for exploration, future impacts for exploration. That their descriptions in this first part of the flyby have told us something scientifically, but also have told us something scientifically, but also about future surface.
It was so interesting to hear Victor talking about. It was so interesting to hear Victor talking about in his mind's eye. He was imagining on the surface and walking around. That was down on the surface and walking around. And when we're thinking about targets, I know some of them are determined based on. I know some of them are determined based on lunar illumination. Because the ones that we're looking at today, how and why were these selected? How and why were these selected?
Such a wonderful question. This really gets at such a wonderful question. At the heart of some of our really highest priority science questions, some of our really highest priority science questions is a big one, right? So of course we need the targets that we're interested on the lunar future to be the targets that we're interested on the lunar future to be, but the timing in which they see them during the timing in which they see them during the flyby enables us to ask different questions. The pre-flyby crew conference talking about the pre-flyby crew conference talking about will the same pair read and go crater twice, look at and that looking at it from different illumination angles, looking at it from different illumination angles, understand that feature better and connect color and albedo with topography and morphology. Then you have other craters where you want to look at it with the sun shining on it obliquely versus straight on, and that tells you something different about and that tells you something different about the scientific target being on the targeting plan in the first place. Target being on the targeting plan in the first place.
With the viewers today about how what the crew is able to capture in this short time frame. It was able to capture in this short time frame lighting conditions of those craters. Years different lighting conditions. Something robotic to be able to do based on attitude maneuvers and where the sun is at. So can you just talk a little bit about the importance of having both? So can you just talk a little bit about the importance of having the crew?
Absolutely, we definitely don't want to minimize the impact. Absolutely, we definitely don't want to minimize the reconnaissance orbiter impact that's often referenced is data from LRO and its payload that's often have really been instrumental in getting us frankly to this point for Artemis 2 and future missions. Getting us frankly to this point for Artemis 2 and future missions. The crew observations that we've already been hearing about, the crew observations that we've already been hearing about, orbiting spacecraft data, it is such a perfect complement to the orbiting spacecraft data perspective. They are able to have this unique perspective. They are far enough away. How many times have we heard the crew and their science that heard it? How many times have we heard the crew and their science from all the way up here in the northern hemisphere down to the southern hemisphere, all the way up here in the northern hemisphere down to the southern hemisphere? That right there is not something we had the ability to do. That right there is not something we had the ability to do with the Apollo missions. And it allows just literally in the blink of an eye would take to synthesize observations that it would take to coordinate with different orbiting platforms, and they're making it coordinate with different orbiting platforms, and they're making it like that.
Very exciting to hear all of their.
It has been
very exciting to hear all
I've heard they were able to capture every single target so far. I've heard they were able to capture. I think that's correct, and I think it's important also to remember that. And I think that's correct, and I think it's important also to remember that. And I know the science team is hearing from the crew members who are not at the forward windows, right? From the crew members who are not at the forward windows, right? Thick of the observations, they are recording really in the thick of the observations. They are recording on minutes long observations per target. Getting those down starting here in a couple hours. We will be getting those down starting here in a couple hours. Science information that we haven't heard live yet, and that's going to form the basis. We haven't heard live conversation with them tomorrow morning. We're going to have my conversation dive into the science and absolutely nerd out about what they were able to do today. One of the most gratifying things they were able to do today. One of the most gratifying things for me today is hearing the discussion times in the targeting plan, because when we have had the ability to put multiple brains on a problem, we have had the ability to put multiple brains on a problem, and I'm looking forward to them elevated each other, sleeping on it overnight, and I'm looking forward to them actually being able to really truly have an elevated science discourse actually being able to really truly have an elevated science discourse tomorrow.
I cannot wait to hear everything that you and I cannot wait to hear from some of those audio recordings get to learn overnight from some of those audio recordings. So Kelsey, I know you're very busy. You've done a great job today. Thank you so much for joining us for this interview. You've done a great job today. Thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
Thanks for having me. It's such an exciting day.
We are now expecting acquisition of signal in about 24 minutes. As a reminder, the Orion spacecraft has flown around the other side of the moon, where they are out of contact with our deep space network. Out of contact with our deep space network. And we just heard confirmation here in Mission Control, Houston, that confirmation here in Mission Control, Houston, that we have destination to the moon at MET destination to the moon, 25 minutes. At MET 5 days, 25 minutes and 34 seconds, and we anticipate the spacecraft's altitude is approximately 4,067 statute miles above the moon. 34 seconds, and we anticipate the spacecraft's altitude is approximately 4,067 statute miles above the moon. We're continuing to track what the crew is doing while around the other side of the moon. They are continuing to take pictures of the Earth, of the moon, the Earth now out of sight. What they're in right now is a crew choice event. We're continuing to track what the crew is doing find interesting features on the surface to take photos of those. They are continuing to take pictures of why the Earth they were interested of the moon. Something else that they'll be looking toward next, just momentarily, right now is a crew choice event. They've got a few minutes allotted to look at to find interesting features on the surface to take photos of those in short-lived flashes on the lunar surface. They were interesting. These would be caused something else that they'll be looking toward next, just momentarily, will be impact flashes. They've got a few minutes allotted to look at the darkest portions. The team's interested in if the crew can see lofted, short-lived flashes on the lunar surface because these would be caused by impact bombardment. Now 20 minutes until we expect to regain communications targeting with integrity. The team's interested in if the crew can see lofted lunar dust. This would only be visible just before Earthrise. Now 20 minutes until we expect to regain communications with integrity and the astronauts for Artemis 2. We're live in Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center, but there's a team over 750 miles away also monitoring today's operations. And of course, just like us, they are in LOS, or loss of signal, with the spacecraft. This is Luca. We're live in Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center, but there's a team over 750 miles away also monitoring today's operations. And of course, just like us, lunar orbit, they are in LOS, or loss of signal, with NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. The lunar utilization Luca and Lisa are right next to each other, and just a short walk away from the engineering support area, which are twin control rooms that will support missions and operations in lunar orbit or on the International Space Station is monitored. At NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Artemis science operations, Luca and Lisa are right next to each other, and just a short walk away from the SLS Engineering Support Center, which is used during Artemis 2. Teams in the Luca will use the facility to support first space station science operations. Luca primarily supports the Artemis science operations, and radiation will provide engineering support for landing systems and ability to complete various tasks. This mission, the data from these science teams in the Luca will use the facility to support first of its kind science operations to better understand the deep space effects of microgravity and radiation. Members of the NASA human landing systems and ability to complete various tasks. Team, the data from these science operations will inform experts and technical authorities will work in the LISA. There, they will monitor lander systems in real time for future crewed missions to the moon. Members of the NASA human landing system mission teams are using the LISA during Artemis 2 to observe mission safety leads, flight and using the opportunity to inform authorities will work in the LISA landings to the moon's surface. There, they will monitor lander systems in real time and be involved in key decision-making processes throughout the mission. Teams are using the LISA during Artemis 2 to observe mission operations and using the opportunity to inform and prepare for future crewed landings to the moon's surface. We now expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion in about 17 minutes. In the meantime, a little overview of how our crew members flying by the lunar far side at an altitude of between 4,000 and 9,000 miles are testing the capabilities to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion in about 17 minutes. Has simulated views of the flyby using detailed topographic maps flying by the terrain and photorealistic lighting scenarios. The Artemis 2 crew members have been using these visualizations to prepare for this historic mission, which is paving the way for future exploration of the moon's surface using detailed topographic maps of the lunar terrain and photorealistic lighting scenarios. The Artemis 2 crew members have been using these visualizations to prepare for this historic mission, which is paving the way for future exploration of the moon's surface and beyond.
It also recommits us to exploring the solar system in a way that we haven't. The most exciting thing to me about Artemis 2 is just the return provides an opportunity for younger generations to understand human eyes are going to see parts of the moon that haven't been seen by anyone before. It also recommits us to exploring the solar system in a way that we haven't in a long time. The emphasis of Artemis is going to be, first of all, for younger generations to understand the excitement of doing that kind of presence on another world. First on the moon, but we're hoping that that's a stepping stone is our return to the moon after 50 years. The emphasis of Artemis is going to be, first of all, science. It's not going to land. But second of all, we're testing all of the technologies that we've created first on flying to the moon. But since we're hoping that that's a stepping stone to Mars and other destinations in the solar system eventually. The astronauts will be looking out the window at parts of the moon that have never been seen by human eyes before. We're testing all of the technology that we've created for flying at an altitude that's much higher than Apollo. A lot of systems have been modernized, they will see the entire disk of the moon, including the areas that are closer to both parts of the South Pole that have never been seen by human eyes Apollo never saw. They will be flying by the moon at an altitude that's much higher than Apollo's won't know until launch day. They will see the entire disk of different lighting scenarios, including areas that are closer to sort of picture North and South Pole. If you can make a visualization of Apollo never saw, all of that depends on the lighting, which and also practice aiming launch day, but we can practice with different lighting scenarios. Looking at these, it's hard for people to sort of picture that in their mind. If you can make a visualization target, show them a movie, that helps everybody choose the targets and also practice aiming at those targets. The astronauts have actually been looking at these visualizations through the lens of the camera parts are the parts that they could see at the various targets. Parts, like this entire area here, and the places that are farther north and south, are places that they couldn't see in sunlight, either because it was nighttime there, the brighter parts are the parts that they could see. The darker parts, like this entire area here and at places about 100 farther north and south, because places that they couldn't see astronauts were flying at such either because low altitude, it was nighttime there, or because it was actually quite close. The horizon of the astronauts, the north and south poles, Apollo flights, and this whole area over here was not in sunlight kilometers. And because this amazing astronauts were flying at such low altitude, Oriental is a very large impact feature. It's about 650 kilometers wide. It's got multiple rings. These are rings that form like ripples in the pond from the impact, but of course it's on a huge scale. Oriental is a very large impact feature. It's about 650 kilometers wide, like the dark spots that we see on the near side. These are rings that biggest ones like ripples in the pond from the impact, but of course it's on a huge scale. Eyes and sort of picking out features that maybe you don't even see has that sort of dark basalt lava covering it, like the dark spots that we see on the near side. It's one of the biggest ones that's more on the far side than the near. So seeing it with human eyes and sort of picking out features that maybe you don't even see in robotic cameras is an important goal for the mission.
This live view in the Science Evaluation Room, or the SIR, here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, just down the hall from where we're at in the Artemis Mission Control Room. Teams continuing to monitor the flyby. This live view in the Science Evaluation Room, or the SIR, here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, just down the hall from where we're at. Continues their observations of the moon, even though they are out of touch with Earth. We expect to hear from them in 12 minutes and 26 seconds. Again, this is approximately 40 minutes loss of signal while they are out of reach of the deep space network. The crew continues their observations of the moon, even though they are out of touch with Earth. We expect to hear from them in 12 minutes and 26 seconds. Coverage. We talked a lot about the science and engineering behind today's lunar flyby, but we also spoke to the crew about what the moon means to them and how they see its place in human history. To image lofted lunar dust. Throughout our coverage, we've talked a lot about the science and engineering behind today's lunar flyby, but we also spoke to the crew about what the moon means to them and how they see its place in human history.
Little kid lying in bed at night and just looking out at the moon and whatever phase it was in, I was thinking, man, my friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon. And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, and I would think, man, my brother can see that moon at night where he is, and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. It's a connection of life on Earth. My friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon.
History.
And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, I would think, man, my brother can see that moon where he is, and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. And it's a connection of life on Earth. We can all look up and see that moon.
It represents history. It is something that's been everything that's ever happened to the story of its own written evolution. There's something beautiful about that. Processes
I've also learned from my indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as grandmother moon.
And
so you've probably heard of Mother Earth, they use grandmother moon because grandmother moon is responsible for the water.
There's something beautiful about that.
Grandmothers, sort of protect the water source. My indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as grandmother. So you've probably heard that represents something different for each individual culture around the planet. And that's really neat because we all share because that grandmother moon is responsible for the water.
We all have seen the
grandmothers, sort of protect the water source,
lighting conditions
just like
our whole lives, and so it seems very familiar to us. But it's also kind of unknown. When we get up close, some of the imagery that we'll get to describe and to share with people
culture around the planet
will be very unique.
And that's really neat because we all share
both of those things being true about this one entity that we all know the same side of the moon in different lighting conditions our whole lives, and so it seems very familiar to us, but it's also kind of unknown. When we get up close, some of the imagery that we'll get to describe and to share with people will be very unique. And that nature, both of those things being true about this one entity that we all know, just is really special.
It's just the epitome of a symbol of both something that's in each of our hearts, but that's also represents
You're looking at a live view inside
exploration
Artemis
and
Mission
reaching.
Control here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We are currently out of contact with the Artemis 2 crew. This was a planned, or not really a planned, but a tracked loss of signal that occurs when the crew flies behind the moon. You're looking at a live view inside Artemis to communicate with the crew Johnson Space Center when they are behind the moon. They are out of reach of that deep space network. When you consider our nonstop communications during the time in which we live, this is even not really a planned, but a tracked for the Artemis 2 signal that occurs only currently communicating with each other. Now, we expect to regain those communications in under 9 minutes from now. And we also, when they are behind the moon, they are out of reach of that deep space network. Despite being out of communication, the crew is continuously capturing imagery of their predetermined lunar targets. For the Artemis 2 crew, they're only currently communicating with each other. Now, we expect to regain those communications in under 9 minutes from now. And we also are hopeful for a view of Earthrise. Despite being out of communication, the crew is continuously capturing imagery of their predetermined lunar targets. Now about 7 minutes, 25 seconds until we anticipate regaining communications with the Artemis 2 crew aboard Orion. In the meantime, Artemis 2 Lunar Science Deputy Lead Marie Henderson is trained these astronauts to capture and document their views of the lunar surface for all of us to enjoy back here on Earth.
I cannot wait to hear their voices when they get to the far side of the moon and I can hear them talk about seeing the moon out their window. I try to imagine it now and just like tear up thinking about it. Ooh, now I gotta hold on a second. We have human eyeballs connected to wonderfully smart brains our astronaut friends have. They are going to be able to observe the moon in multiple different ways. They can use their eyes, they'll look through their camera and snap pictures, and just looking out the window getting that human experience. But during Apollo, the astronauts were so much closer to the lunar surface. Our astronauts are going to be doing a flyby at a higher altitude, so they're going to be able to see the whole moon 25 as a lunar disk on the lunar far side. That's a brand new, unique perspective that humans haven't been able to look at before.
Artemis
we are
2
doing a lot of lunar geography training with them. They have study sessions and quizzes they can do that are assigned to them. You know, even if you're an astronaut, you still get homework. We actually get in the mock-up. In that enclosed physical space, we have to think through the hardware that they have. When they get to the computers, their microphones to make these observations. There's 4 windows up front. Through one of those windows, one of our astronauts will be using a Nikon D5 camera with an 80 to 400 millimeter lens, so something that allows them to zoom in really far and actually human eyeballs detailed observations of the surface. It's almost like looking through a pair of binoculars. They are going to be able to observe the moon in multiple different ways. They can use their eyes, they'll look through their camera and snap pictures, and just looking out the window, getting that different morphologies. But during comparing the region that we're having so much closer to the lunar surface, our astronauts are going to be doing a flyby at a higher altitude, that are going to be able to see the whole observed, putting them all on the timeline of how they're going to be observed, that's and then taking the first look at the data when humans haven't been able to look at before. The Apollo astronauts were doing a lot of lunar geography 300 hours total, and they have study sessions and quizzes they can do that are assigned to them. Even if you're an astronaut, you still get homework. We actually get in the mock-up in that, and so we have so much more to explore and so much more to learn. Hardware that they have, the cameras, beginning of the next generation that gets to make these observations. There's 4 windows up front. Through one of those windows, one of our astronauts will be using a Nikon D5 camera with an 80 to 400 millimeter lens. So something that allows them to zoom in really far and actually take more detailed observations of the surface. It's almost like looking through a pair of binoculars as well. It's just like being a geologist out in the field. They're going, they're telling us what they're seeing, looking for colors, textures, different morphologies, and comparing the region that we're having them look at to the regions that are around them.
Or mission elapsed
we
time
have
of
a
5
science
days,
team that is planning the targets that are going to be observed, putting them all on the timeline of how they're going to be observed, and then taking the first look at the data when it comes down. The Apollo astronauts were only on the moon for 300 hours total, and they only went to the equator. That's like going to places that were safer landing sites, and they only saw so little, 300 hours total. And so we have so much more to explore and so much more to learn, and we are the beginning of the next generation that gets to start being a part of these discoveries.
We are now 4 minutes and 28 seconds until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts flying aboard Orion on the Artemis 2 mission. They are now flying behind the moon. While behind the moon at an MET, or mission elapsed time of 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds, we expect this was the point in which they made their closest approach, 4,067
We're live in the Artemis
miles
Mission Control Room in
Houston, but we are not the only room monitoring today's flyby. As you can see, this is the SIR, the Science Evaluation Room. It's in the same building and just down the hall. It's a multidisciplinary science team supporting the Artemis 2 crew in real time, including experts in lunar geology, impact cratering, volcanism, polar science, imaging, and visualization. You can see the SIR here. That's the Science Evaluation Room. It's embedded within Mission Control to provide science input during live operations like what we see today. But additionally, the Science Mission Operations Room is a back room that processes data, evaluates imagery, and supports rapid analysis. We also have our science officer, Kelsey Young, here on console today. She's serving as the primary interface between the science team and the flight controllers, ensuring science priorities are represented during mission execution. We're live in the Artemis Mission Control Room in Houston, but we are not the only room monitoring today's flyby. As you can see, this is the SIR, the Science Evaluation Room. It's in the same building and just down the hall. It's a multidisciplinary science team supporting the Artemis 2 crew in real time, coming up including experts in lunar geology, impact cratering, volcanism, polar science, imaging, and visualization. You can see the SIR here. That's the Science Evaluation Room. It's embedded within Mission Control to provide science input during live operations like what we see today. But additionally, the Science Mission Operations Room is a back room that processes data, evaluates imagery, and supports rapid analysis. These activities have been precisely timelined, and this is the fourth of we also have our science officer, Kelsey Young, here on console today. From Orion's windows. She's serving as the primary interface between the science team and the flight controllers. Science priorities are represented during mission execution 2 and 3. One crew member is in window 2 with a blue shroud over the window, taking photos and using an 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens, while the other astronaut is in window 3 using their portable computing device, also known as a PCD, to make annotations. And both of those crew members are making audio recordings of what they are seeing. Coming up on 1 minute and 36 seconds connected to their PCDs, and those audio recordings are being sent to the science team tonight. We are not hearing those live. However, we have been hearing quite a lot of great descriptions Meanwhile, aboard the spacecraft, the crew has continued executing their right now. The support team members tasks Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. As we discussed earlier today, science these activities situation reports timelined, calling down a few times each hour to discuss what they're observing. And even though we're out of contact with them right now, they are still conducting those science at this time as they'll be available. Victor Glover they come and mission specialist Christina Cook are observing the moon at windows 2 and 3. The situation reports include how the crew is positioned, any missed targets, or anything unexpected they saw. One crew member is in window 2 target descriptions, any hardware over the window, and their emotions and reactions. And using an 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens, while the other astronaut is in window 3 using their portable computing device, also known as a PCD, to make annotations. And both of those crew members are making audio recordings of what they are seeing to acquire signal from the Orion spacecraft. They are wearing headsets connected to their PCDs, and those audio recordings are being sent to the science team tonight. We are not hearing those live. However, we have been hearing quite a lot of great descriptions from the crew who have been serving as the support. Right now, the support team members are Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. Those team members are providing science sit reps, situation reports, calling down a few times each hour to discuss what they're observing. And even though we're out of contact with them right now, they are still conducting those science sit reps as they'll be available once they come back around the moon. The situation reports include how the crew is positioned, any missed targets, or anything unexpected they saw. They're also including lunar target descriptions, any hardware issues, and their emotions and reactions. We're in the Artemis Mission Control Room at Johnson Space Center to acquire signal from the Orion spacecraft. With Orion, that acquisition of signal coming after a 40-minute loss of signal, during which the crew was flying behind the moon, out of contact with anyone on Earth. We are getting our first views from Orion in the Artemis Mission Control Room at Johnson Space Center. Orion has come back around the other side of the moon. Orion, that acquisition of signal coming after a 40-minute, 252,000 miles away. The crew was flying behind the moon, out of contact with anyone on Earth. With this transit complete, lunar flyby continues, but Orion has also technically begun its journey home. Right now, the crew are getting a few moments to enjoy and take photos of Earthrise for themselves, and we expect to contact them shortly. But we do have good signal coming from Orion. We are getting our first views from Orion after the loss of signal. Orion has come back around the other side of the moon, and that little crescent that you see is Earth, over 252,000 miles away. With this transit complete, lunar flyby continues, but Orion has also technically begun its journey home. This view from inside the Orion spacecraft, all 4 astronauts now back on the other side of the moon and in contact with us on Earth. Their tasks for lunar flyby did not stop as they went behind the moon and out of contact with us. Right now, the crew are getting a few moments they were attempting to image and take photos of Earthrise for themselves. Short-lived flashes on the lunar surface, which would be caused by impact signal coming from potentially even a lofted lunar dust. Right now, of course, they are getting pictures of Earthrise. After this target, they will get a short observation break. It's about an hour long, actually.
Houston, integrity, comm check.
Integrity, we have you loud and clear. How many?
Houston, we have you the same, and it is so great to hear from Earth again. To Asia, Africa, and Oceania, we are looking back at you. We hear you can look up and see
This
the moon
view from
right
inside
now.
the Orion spacecraft,
We see you
all
too.
4 astronauts now
When we
back on the
burned
other
this
side of the
bird
moon
towards
and
the
in
moon,
contact with
I
us
said
on
that we do
Earth.
not leave Earth, but
Their tasks for lunar flyby did not stop as they went behind the moon and out of contact with us. We anticipate during that time they were attempting to image some impact flashes, short-lived flashes on the lunar surface, which would be caused by impact bombardment and potentially even lofted lunar dust. Right now, of course, they are getting pictures of Earthrise.
We will always choose Earth. We will always choose
After
each
this
other.
target, they will get a short observation break. It's about an hour long, actually.
Integrity from Earth, our single system, fragile and interconnected. We copy. Those of us that Integrity, can,
we
have you loud and clear. How many?
Houston, we have you the same, and it is so great to hear from Earth again. To Asia, Africa, and Oceania, we are looking back at you. We hear you can look up and see the moon right now. We see you too. When we burned this burn towards the moon, I said that we do not leave Earth, but we choose it. And that is true. We will explore, we will build ships, we will visit again. We will construct science outposts. We will drive rovers. We will do radio astronomy. We will found companies. We will bolster industry. We will inspire. But ultimately, we
Those
will
first
always
communications
choose Earth.
back with the
We will
astronauts
always
aboard
choose each
Orion.
other.
Christina Cook calling back to what she said just before translunar injection
Integrity
burn.
from
With
Earth,
this
our
burn,
single system,
we do not leave
fragile
Earth,
and
we
interconnected.
choose it.
We copy.
The translunar
Those of us
injection
that
burn
can are
served
looking
as
back.
not only what put them on this trajectory to fly around the moon, but what also committed them to splashing down in the Pacific Ocean on flight day 10.
We are happy to say we copy.
At this time, the crew is entering an observation break. We expect this to last about an hour, and it's probably a welcomed break following their very, very busy day taking pictures, making annotations, making audio recordings, and communicating all of the wonderful things that they are seeing on the moon. This observation break is also partially due to the fact that we will be entering an eclipse with the astronauts. This will be the first solar eclipse. Christina Cook calling back to what she said just before translunar injection burn. Need to wear eclipse glasses for the first 2 minutes until the sun is completely covered by the moon. The translunar injection burn served as not only what put them on this trajectory to fly around the moon, we will have communications also committed with them to splashing down in the Pacific Ocean on flight day 10. Because of that eclipse, Orion's attitude must be changed right now so that its solar arrays are in the sun. This will help it charge the batteries needed to power it through that eclipse time frame. At this time, the crew is entering an observation break. This view on your screen is a visualization. This to last about an hour. The spacecraft now 400, probably a welcome break following their very, very busy day, and that number will now continue to grow. Making annotations, while the number making audio from recordings and communicating all of the wonderful things that they are seeing miles will continue to shrink the moon, all the way until our crew is back home. This observation break is also partially due to the fact that we will be entering an eclipse later. This will be the first solar eclipse that humans have seen from the moon. The astronauts will need to wear eclipse glasses for the first 2 minutes until the sun is completely covered by the moon, and then they have additional targets that the science team is hoping that they will photograph. We will have communications with them during that eclipse time frame. Because of that eclipse, Orion's attitude must be changed right now so that its solar arrays are in the sun. This will help it charge the batteries needed to power it through that eclipse time frame. This view on your screen is a visualization. The spacecraft now 4,224 miles away from the moon, and that number will now continue to grow, while the number of distance from Earth, 252,699 miles, will continue to shrink all the way until our crew is back home. Again, we are MET, mission elapsed time, 5 days and 58 minutes since the launch of Artemis II. We have reestablished communications with the crew and the Orion spacecraft, now entering a little bit of a break while they are out of visibility, or the moon is out of their visibility. The spacecraft will be reoriented to view the moon ahead of an upcoming eclipse. This current attitude maneuver helps charge the solar arrays and batteries aboard Orion that will power them through the eclipse. Again, we are MET, mission elapsed time, 5 days and 58 minutes since the launch of Artemis II. We have reestablished communications with the crew and the Orion spacecraft, now entering a little bit of a break while they are out of visibility, or the moon is out of their visibility. The spacecraft will be reoriented to view the moon ahead of an upcoming eclipse.
Houston. In mission control,
this current attitude maneuver helps charge the solar arrays and batteries aboard Orion that will power them through
Artemis
the eclipse.
2 patches around. We are earthbound and ready to bring you home.
That's great. See the light of day as we head back to
Integrity, Houston. In mission control, all of your flight controllers and your flight director have flipped their Artemis II patches around. We are earthbound and ready to bring you home.
That's great. See the light of day as we head back to
A very special moment just now in Mission Control. Ahead of the crew's flight to Kennedy Space Center and during one of their last sims or simulations here, they visited the Mission Control team in Artemis Mission Control in Houston and brought us each a patch. Everyone in the flight control room has had these on their signifiers at their console. On one side of the patch that you've probably seen is the moon with the Earth behind it. Now that we've passed behind the moon and we are returning home, the flight control team has instructed everyone in the room to switch their patch around so that the Earth is closer and the moon is behind us. We are really looking forward to seeing the Artemis 2 crew, and the Capcom Jenny Gibbons did call that update up to the crew that the flight control team here has turned their patches around as was instructed by the crew during that last sim, and we are counting down the days until they get home. They are now 5 days, 1 hour, and 3 minutes mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. A very special moment just now in Mission Control. Ahead of the crew's flight to Kennedy Space Center and during one of their last sims or simulations here, they visited the Mission Control team in Artemis Mission Control in Houston and brought us each a patch. Everyone in the flight control room has had these on their signifiers at their console. On one side of the patch that you've probably seen is the moon with the Earth behind it. Now that we've passed behind the moon and we are returning home, the flight control team has instructed everyone in the room to switch their patch around so that the Earth is closer and the moon is behind us. We are really looking forward to seeing the Artemis 2 crew, and the Capcom Jenny Gibbons did call that update up to the crew that the flight control team here has turned their patches around as was instructed by the crew during that last sim, and we are counting down the days until they get home. They are now 5 days, 1 hour, and 3 minutes mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. Joining me here in the room, Artemis Mission Control, I have Angela Garcia, Artemis 2 Science Officer. Thanks for being here, Angela.
It is an honor to be here. What a day. Everyone's been buzzing. I can't contain myself. So it's been a really awesome day.
So you're sitting on console at the Science Console now. Have you been in the SIR earlier today?
There's a lot going on. So I went here first, then I'm going to go there after.
Clear, Houston.
All right, Integrity, we hear you. That was a little clipped, but I think we have a better link now. We experienced some blockage from a solar array. We moved it, and we are in bias tail to sun.
Okay, Houston, you're coming in loud and clear, and copy, we're in bias tail to sun now.
Affirm and Integrity, just so you know.
Joining me here in the room, Artemis Mission Control, I have Angela Garcia, Artemis 2 Science Officer. Thanks for being here, Angela.
It is an honor to be here. What a day. Everyone's been buzzing. I can't contain myself. So it's been a really awesome day.
So you're sitting on console at the Science Console now. Have you been in the SIR earlier today?
There's a lot going on. So I went here first, then I'm going to go there after.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Our pleasure. All right, Integrity, we hear you. That was a little clipped, but I think we have a better
Angela,
link now.
So can you tell me a little bit about your role supporting Artemis 2 and the science preparation for the mission?
We are in bias.
Yes, so I'm one of the 3 science officers. So Kelsey's been on console all day. I'll take over kind of closer to the end of the day, and then Trevor Graff is on the planning shift. And so it's the 3 of us in this 24-hour cycle supporting the mission. And so the science officer console is a brand new console to Mission Control. control. And it's not every day that you get
integrity, just so you know,
a new discipline incorporated into mission control. So it's been such a significant milestone for us. And it's just a testament to the commitment that the Flight Operations Directorate and NASA have, that they're going to be integrating science and maximizing science throughout Artemis. So it's really exciting. And then the science preparation. So I'm on the operations team, but I'm also on the training team. So all the incredible training and shout-outs that you've gotten today, it warms my heart. It warms everybody's heart in the science evaluation room. I promise you that. But so all the classroom training, the field training, the mission simulations.
So can you tell me a little bit about your
part
role
of all of it?
supporting
And
Artemis 2
that is what we did to get the crew to be. They are a part of the science team. They're the forefront that that nice
been on console all day. I'll take over. Kind of closer to the end of the day.
You have to be pretty proud of them. Their reports have been fantastic.
It's the three of us in this 24-hour cycle.
I would like to know a little bit about how you have developed procedures for this crew. What kind of science activities are they carrying out inside the spacecraft?
And it's not every day that you get.
Yeah. So the procedure development has been
incorporated into mission control. So it's been such a exploration science that we're doing is inherently
just a testament to
the commitment that the Flight Operations Directorate and NASA inherently has more structure and rigidity, integrating science and maximizing science to operationalize the science that we want to get done has been a challenge. Science preparation, but it's, I think we've
so I'm on the operations team,
to go
but
through
I'm
these
also on the training
processes
team.
and create good products at the end and have a good plan.
You've gotten today,
it warms my heart. It's been really great. What was the second part in the science evaluation room?
What kind of these science activities that they're performing?
All the classroom training, the field training, the mission simulations.
So a lot of the procedures
help organize what the crew is doing in the cabin. What we did to get the crew to be, they are a part of the science team, what they've been doing, and they've been doing a lot. And it's been a little dark, so I can re-explain what some of those things that they're doing.
I imagine that you have to be pretty proud of them.
The observation blocks are about an hour long, and the crew is organized. The 4 crew members are organized into 2 pairs of 2
for this crew.
The window team and the cabin
science
team.
Activities are they
and
carrying out
the lunar targeting package that the procedure development has been that the crew have on their handheld tablets.
I'd say the exploration
science for the window team is the window team. The 2 crew members are looking out the window. One has the camera with the long lens. One inherently has more structure and rigidity, and so to marry the 2, and they're taking these detailed observations. The science that we want to get done. Halfway in that observation has been a challenge. The window team, I think we've been able to go through these processes and create good products at the end and have a good plan. So each crew member has a chance to have that long lens. It's been really great. And then that's just what the window team is doing.
There's also the cabin team where they also have duties that they're doing.
We're asking a lot of the crew in this time. And then the cabin team, they're taking, they have the help organize what the crew is doing images inside the cabin. And I know we've talked a lot about what they've been doing, and they've been doing a lot. And you've heard some talk, so I can re-explain out at the bright what some of those things inside their dark cabin and looking at their LED observation blocks are about an hour long. The cabin team and the crew is organized. The 4 crew members are organized into 2 pairs of 2. The window team into specific cabin team into specific targets on their plan. The lunar targeting package also you've been showing out and what the crew have on their so they're looking at is really the instructions for the window team. Into the window team, the 2 crew members down and in the science. One has the camera with the long lens, one has, and those are just looking out the window with their unaided eye are going to be uplinked or downlinked overnight, and we're going to be able to chew on that data. But yeah, they're helping. They're doing a lot, and so making sure we have a plan that's flexible, but also make sure that we check off all those boxes was really important. They're taking these detailed observations,
so tell me a little bit more. You
and then halfway in that observation block, they do those. The window team
analogs or environments were really useful for this.
So you've been so for procedure development, switch positions, you have so many different has a chance environments that you can have that. You have classroom, and then that's just what the window team is doing. You have the Orion mock-up team, you have simulations, duties that they're doing for developing the plan. A lot of the crew in this time. We kind of did it in a tiered approach because each of those they have the interior camera and they're taking images inside the cabin and has a little bit of a higher fidelity. The window team, so we would start you've heard some call-outs. So we would get looking out at the bright moon and then looking inside the dark cabin and looking at their LED screen is a lot. So the cabin team is also helping support and target and let's just do the plan how we the window team into specific write that down targets and then just keep iterating. They're also helping and then call out these science situational reps. So they're looking out at a different window and listening in to what the crew who are really down in the science on the window team are doing, and they're giving us insight. And those recordings that the window team is doing are going to be uplinked or downlinked overnight, and we're going to be able to chew on that data. But yeah, they're helping. They're doing a lot. And so making sure we have a plan that's flexible, but also make sure that we check off all those boxes was really important.
So tell me a little bit more. You talked earlier about the analogs that the crew has done. What kind of analogs or environments were really useful for this?
Yeah, so for procedure development, right, you have so many different environments that you can do. You have classroom, like we said, we have you have the Orion mock-up, you have simulations, and at least for developing the plan, we kind of did it in a tiered approach, because each of those different analog environments helps us answer a slightly different question and has a little bit of a higher fidelity. So we would start with the classroom. So we would get,
and then finally,
we would just get into a classroom, we would put all the hardware on the table, and then we'd almost role play of like, you be Victor, you be Reed, you be Jeremy, and I'll be Christina, and like, let's just do the plan how we think we should do it, write that down, and then just keep iterating on that, and then
let me know if you have anything. Houston for a tag up pre-forward link LOS in place of the Flight Director Conference.
Okay, Houston, we copy all. Thanks for those words, Jenny. Okay, Jenny, we're ready.
All right, crew, I'm going to roll through a couple of topics here. The first two are for timeline. First of all, read for your toilet maintenance. It is a shortened toilet maintenance
just a
where you
quick
do not
call
have
up
to
the
do
crew
the
ahead of a forward-linked LOS, meaning that we won't be communicating with them, but we will be receiving their communications and data during that time frame. So, Angela, we were talking about analog environments. You were telling me about the classroom and getting in there and pretending who's Victor, who's Reed. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, it works pretty well. So you're going to do the plan how you expect it to be, and then once we finalize that plan, we'll give it to a completely new group of people and have them practice it, and then they'll be like, these steps don't make sense, and we'll reiterate on it over and over. Then we'll take it to a higher fidelity environment like the Orion mock-up, and we'll do the same thing, because that volume is smaller, the window placement, their seating, what things have we forgotten with this addition of this environment. And then once we reiterate on that, we'll take it then, we'll give it to the crew and have them execute off of it during mission simulations. That's the highest fidelity that we can do before we send it to space. So this is the first time we've had to do this, because we're a brand new console, and it just sparks so many neurons of like, how are we going to do this for surface missions and integrate this in so many different ways. So excited to have kicked off this process, but there's so much more to come.
Fascinating. And I think it was really well thought out too, because each crew member gets an opportunity to do each task.
All right,
and
just
so
a quick
you're getting
to the crew
different perspectives and different insights from each crew member, maybe even about the same target, but something that one person sees could be completely different than something another person notices. So Angela, we were talking about analog environments. You were telling me about the classroom and getting in there and has traveled. They're now on their way home, but they traveled farther from the moon than the Apollo missions did. So what makes that vantage point scientifically interesting?
Yeah, observations are so fundamental in the scientific toolkit, particularly observations from different perspectives, different scales, and with different techniques. And so for this, so we really tried to make the plan to optimize those. There's pros and cons for all those things for this mission. So we really just focused the plan to have all those pros. So in terms of scale, this zoomed out scale, you can learn different things. This different perspectives. So their perspective, as Kelsey talked about, photometry around when they orbit the moon. And then also just their different the different things they're able to observe. So yeah, let me talk a little bit about scale, because I think observations at different scales, you can gain a lot of different information. So like, for example, if you're an astronaut on the surface looking at a rock, and you describe at this micro scale. So in training, we kind of talk about observations from micro to macro,
Tell me more
from outcrop to
it works
orbit.
Pretty well.
So looking at a
do
rock
the plan
at this
how
scale,
you
can describe its components, you can describe what it's made of and its colors and its minerals. Give it to a completely new group of people, rock came from this boulder, practice it, and then they'll be like, these are the different things that I'm observing around. Then we'll take it to a higher fidelity environment, like and then you zoom out a little bit more, and you're like, okay, well, I can see that this because that volume is smaller, the window placement from this mountain ridge, seating, or this what things have we forgotten with this high ridge addition of this this environment. Because I can see the trail that it came from, okay, now let me describe we'll take it this ridge, give it to the crew, and have them different parts of it and maybe other boulder simulations. That's the highest fidelity that we can do before we send it to space. This ridge is a part of this larger crater. This is the first time we've had to do this. All of those different steps give you different information. And that's why observations so many neurons like scales and these different perspectives are integrated this in so many different ways. Zoomed out, excited to kind of far view this process is this full lunar disk view. It's the full lunar,
and I think it was really well thought out
on Earth. We see the full lunar disk as well. Each crew member gets an opportunity to do the far side, and we're able to see it.
You're getting different perspectives
all at the same time, which enables each crew member
maybe even about the same target, but something that one person sees could be completely different than something another person
and the color
notices.
Particularly is very compelling.
We also
because
know that Artemis Troop 2
you can just
has traveled
very quickly compare from
they traveled
3 different regions. Is it in the same family? Is this actually a little bit different? Compare that to what they see in their orbital data that they have access to on their observations are so fundamental and really just be able to tease out that observations from different perspectives, different scales
today, and especially the color. We talked with Kelsey about this a little bit.
So we really tried to make the plan to optimize those.
The browns and
there's
greens
pros and cons
like
for all those things for this mission. So we really just focused the plan to have all those pros. So in terms of scale, this zoomed out scale, you can learn different things. This zoomed out or this different perspectives. So their perspective, as Kelsey talked about photometry around when they orbit the moon. So and then also just yes, there's so many things. The different things they're able to observe. So I'd say the thing that I'm most interested in seeing because I think some of their observations at different scales that they're taking, you can gain a lot of different information. Opportunity. So like for example, if you're an astronaut on the surface looking at a rock of experience, and you describe we don't normally micro scale. So in training, we kind of talk about observations from micro to macro, the solar corona, outcrop, and then also annotate it. So looking at a rock on their portable scale, you can describe its components, you can describe what it's made of, and its colors, things that humans can. You're like, okay, and this rock came from this boulder, and it's this part of this boulder, and these are the different things that I'm observing around while they're talking about it is also unique to. And then you zoom out a little bit more, and being able to I can see that this boulder came from as well because we won't be able to have annotations this high ridge. The astronauts will be in suits. I know they're going to be because I can see the trail that it came from. And so, okay, now let me describe. I'm really excited to see some of these annotations different parts and see how other boulders develops. And then you zoom out further because of the orbit. You've heard a lot of this ridge is a part of this larger crater. When people are describing something, give you different information, and so that's why observations you can interpret it differently. But if you're drawing and you're marking, particularly just going back to like the color kind of far view, is this full lunar disk view? Exactly what they meant. And really, I see the full lunar disk as well. Very excited about those annotations. There's been some famous annotations that the Apollo crew have made, particularly about solar corona, which enables the astronauts to that have and lofted dust to different parts, given a lot of and the debate within the scientific community of compelling because observing this phenomenon. You can just and now it's very quickly to hypothesize of like why 3 different regions. Is it in the same family? Is this actually a little bit different? Compare that to what they see in their orbital data that they have access to on their this portable beautiful thing that we're and really just be able to
now you've got me excited about the annotations too. I mean, I've been excited about
we heard them make a lot of those connections today, and especially the color. We talked to Kelsey about this a little bit, just how exciting it was to hear that they're able to draw
browns and greens and things like that.
Pictures that they can just draw right on. It's like this particular thing is different than what we've seen.
We are coming up on the last lunar Angela Garcia. Thank you so much for joining us today and a solar eclipse tonight on Console. So can you tell me what you're interested in the crew learning during that time frame?
See where we go from here.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So the data set. So yes, there's so many things. How to pick one. So I'd say the thing that I'm most interested in seeing is some of their annotations that they're taking. So in this opportunity, it's a very dynamic type of experience in that we don't normally see this activity. And so being able to have crew observe the solar corona and then also annotate it in their on their portable computing device is just such a unique thing that humans can give to missions, and also particularly being able to annotate what they're observing while they're talking about it is also unique to being able to have astronauts in orbit as well, because we won't be able to have annotations on the lunar surface because the astronauts will be in suits. They're going to be collecting samples, they're going to be deploying instruments, and so personally, I'm really excited to see some of these annotations and to see how that develops over time, because you've heard a lot of descriptions, and I think when people are describing something that's unique and different, you can interpret it differently. But if you're drawing and you're marking, particularly just going back to like the color provinces, for example, and those boundaries, you know exactly what they meant. And really, I'm just very excited about those annotations. There's been some famous annotations that the Apollo crew have made, particularly about solar coronas and the structures that have, and lofted dust, that have given a lot of debate within the scientific community of they're observing this phenomenon. And now it's our job to hypothesize of like, why are they observing this? Like, what is going on? So I think that's just a really cool part of exploration and science, and this beautiful thing that we're about to do.
Well, now you've got me excited about the annotations too. I mean, I've been excited about the pictures and the audio, but now
don't sleep on the annotations. I am very excited to see these little sketches that they're able to draw out, and we have pictures that they can just draw right on. It's like, this particular thing is different than what we've seen. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. Angela Garcia, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great time tonight on Console.
Thank you. And you've been doing a great job, and it's so excited to see where we go from here.
Thank you so much. We're live in Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. This is a live view from the Orion spacecraft with our Artemis II crew inside. That's Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen.
Integrity, Houston.
We are still live for our lunar
until we go into a
forward link LOS
break.
While the spacecraft is pivoted away from the moon.
Eclipse on Madrid.
We are going to be going into a solar eclipse. This is the first time anyone has ever seen a solar eclipse from the moon. So it's going to be a unique vantage point for our crew. But ahead of heading into that solar eclipse, we need to charge the batteries on the Orion spacecraft. Therefore, we have positioned the solar arrays into the sunlight to allow time for those batteries to charge. We will get back pointed at the moon just in time for that solar eclipse. We are also in a forward link LOS. What that means is essentially we cannot send calls or commands to the crew right now from the ground. However, we clearly get all of their data and communications. The spacecraft is now 4,632 miles away from the moon, and that number will only continue to grow as the distance from Earth shrinks, now 252,523 miles away. Our closest approach to the moon today was approximately 4,067 statute miles in altitude. Our maximum distance from the Earth is suspected to be 252,756 statute miles. Both of those moments came while Orion was flying in their loss of signal time frame behind the moon. The crew also set that new record today, beating the Apollo 13 record of distance from Earth. This is an animation or a visualization that you can track anytime, day or night, by visiting nasa.gov/track Artemis. This shows you how the spacecraft is positioned as well as their distance and velocity, now traveling 930 miles per hour. During this break Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center today, Houston, the crew is working on a couple of other tasks from the Orion spacecraft with our Artemis II crew inside. National Geographic was selected through a competitive Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen to help tell the story of Artemis II. We are still live for our lunar flyby coverage. The crew is taking videos and pictures, and with other cameras as well. Pivoted away from Geographic plans to leverage. We are going to be going into assets, including magazines, social and digital content. Anyone has television programming for engagement opportunities from the moon. So it's going to be a unique vantage point for our crew. But ahead of heading into that throughout solar the flight, eclipse, the crew has been need to charge the batteries on the Orion spacecraft from a shot list provided by National Geographic, and that includes their morning routine, talking with their families, exercising, and just their overall thoughts about the mission. And I cannot wait to see that footage. Solar arrays into the sunlight to allow time for those batteries to charge. We will get back pointed at the moon just in time for that solar eclipse. We are also in a forward link LOS. What that means is essentially we cannot send calls or commands to the crew right now from the ground. However, we clearly get all of their data position and communications. The spacecraft is now 4,632 miles away from the moon, and that number will only continue to grow as the distance from Earth shrinks, now 252,523 miles away. Our closest approach to the moon today was approximately 4,067 statute miles in altitude. Our maximum distance from the Earth is suspected to be 252,756 statute miles. Both of those moments came while Orion was flying in their loss of signal time frame behind the moon. The crew also set that new record today, beating the Apollo 13 record of distance from Earth. This is an animation or a visualization that you can track anytime, day or night, by visiting nasa.gov/track Artemis. This shows you how the spacecraft is positioned as well as their distance and velocity, now traveling 930 miles per hour. During this break in their time today, the crew is working on a couple of other tasks. Some of those include their National Geographic timeline test. National Geographic was selected through a competitive process by NASA to help tell the story of Artemis II. So you've seen the crew with some GoPros inside the cabin, taking videos and pictures, and with other cameras as well. National Geographic plans to leverage its portfolio of media assets, including magazines, social and digital content, and television programming for engagement opportunities. The crew is in a little break during our flyby coverage for today. They a little bit each day resume their flyby momentarily in about 30 minutes once they get into their observations during that solar eclipse. Talking with their families, exercising, and just their celestial neighbor orbiting Earth at less than a quarter of a million miles on average. When our astronauts venture there for future Artemis missions, they'll target landing sites near the lunar South Pole. There, ancient rocks, minerals, and trapped water ice will not only provide resources for human explorers, but they may also contain clues to the formation and evolution of our planet and the solar system. Let's learn more about the lunar South Pole with this video featuring Dr. Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead.
We learned a lot from the Apollo samples, but we still have a lot left to learn about the moon. The Apollo missions visited only a pretty narrow swath of the moon. All the missions were concentrated near the near-side equator. Really interesting and really critical insights were unlocked with the Apollo samples, but we have so many questions still to answer about the moon and the evolution of the moon.
And liftoff of Artemis 1.
Teams on the ground reporting that the spacecraft is looking good and that the power aboard is good as well, all setting us up in a proper position.
NASA's Artemis
eclipse.
missions are NASA's plan to send people to the surface of the moon. We'll be sending people and roving assets and scientific equipment to, among other things, answer a lot of really compelling science questions. Scientists have a lot to learn about the moon. It's our nearest celestial neighbor here to Earth, so what the moon has experienced, we've experienced. Except here on Earth, we have things like plate tectonics, oceans, forests, people that erase the rock record. Whereas on the moon, that whole record of our planet's history, of the moon's history, is just kind of waiting there at the surface for us to explore. The South Pole, which is where Artemis missions are going to target, is specifically interesting for a couple key reasons. We think there are volatiles at the South Pole of the moon that are not present near the equator. Things like water and water ice that are trapped in the lunar regolith, which basically just means lunar soil, that can easily become untrapped from that lunar regolith, and scientists can scoop up and study for return to Earth. The lunar South Pole is a really exciting scientific target, and it also comes with some challenges for operating. For example, the lighting environment will change drastically within the course of one mission, and even over sometimes the course of one spacewalk. So preparing the crew members, preparing the hardware that we're sending to the moon, and preparing the mission control teams is really, really important. The South Pole Aitken Basin is particularly exciting. We think it's one of the oldest and largest impact basins in the solar system. And if we can get the right rock from the South Pole Aitken Basin and bring it back to our labs here on Earth, we can use that sample to constrain the entire evolution of our solar system and really understand the timing of how the moon and our planet and the entire solar system evolved.
The crew is in a little break during our flyby coverage for today. They will resume their flyby momentarily in about 30 minutes once they get into their observations during that solar eclipse. You're looking at a live view of the Orion spacecraft of the Artemis 2 crew, less than a quarter of a million miles on average. When our astronauts venture there for future Artemis missions, they'll target landing sites near the lunar South Pole. Coming up next will be that solar eclipse. Throughout the Artemis 2 mission, and of course throughout today, you've likely heard the crew being called with the name Integrity. The Artemis 2 crew members named their Orion spacecraft Integrity during a news conference, September 24th, 2025. The name Integrity embodies the foundation of trust, respect, candor, and humility across the crew, and the many engineers, technicians, scientists, planners, and dreamers required for mission success. They said this name is also a nod to the extensive integrated effort from the more than 300,000 spacecraft components to the thousands of people across the world that must come together to venture to the moon and back, and inspire the world, and set the course for resources for human explorers, but they may also contain clues to the formation and evolution of our planet and the solar value of NASA, the agency's astronaut office, and this video featuring Dr. Kelsey Young, Canadian Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead.
We learned a lot from the Apollo samples, but we still have a lot left to learn about the moon. The Apollo missions visited only a pretty narrow swath of the moon. All the missions were concentrated near the near-side equator. Really interesting and really critical insights were unlocked with the Apollo samples, but we have so many questions still to answer about the moon and the evolution of the moon.
And liftoff of Artemis 1. we rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
NASA's Artemis missions are NASA's plan to send people to the surface of the moon. We'll be sending people and roving assets and scientific equipment to, among other things, answer a lot of really compelling science questions. Scientists have a lot to learn about the moon. It's our nearest celestial neighbor here to Earth, so what the moon has experienced, we've experienced. Except here on Earth, we have things like plate tectonics, oceans, forests, people that erase the rock record. Whereas on the moon, that whole record of our planet's history, of the moon's history, is just kind of waiting there at the surface for us to explore. The South Pole, which is where Artemis missions are going to target, is specifically interesting for a couple key reasons. We think there are volatiles at the South Pole of the moon that are not present near the equator. Things like water and water ice that are trapped in the lunar regolith, which basically just means lunar soil, that can easily become untrapped from that lunar regolith, and scientists can scoop up and study for return to Earth. The lunar South Pole is a really exciting scientific target, and it also comes with some challenges for operating. For example, the lighting environment will change drastically within the course of one mission, and even over sometimes the course of one spacewalk. So preparing the crew members, preparing the hardware that we're sending to the moon, and preparing the mission control teams is really, really important. The South Pole Aitken Basin is particularly exciting. We think it's one of the oldest and largest impact basins in the solar system. And if we can get the right rock from the South Pole Aitken Basin and bring it back to our labs here on Earth, we can use that sample to constrain the entire evolution of our solar system and really understand the timing of how the moon and our planet and the entire solar system evolved.
You're looking at a live view. We are 5 days, 1 hour, and 38 minutes mission elapsed time into Artemis 2. In this view on the screen, you can see the crew starting to even look through some photos that they may have captured today. We really look forward to sharing these photos with you as soon as we possibly can. Of the Artemis 2 crew. And the best way to keep up with those is to follow NASA on social media. You can do so at NASA, and for this mission specifically, at NASA Artemis. Again, we are in a forward link LOS, or forward link loss of signal with the crew, meaning that we're not able to communicate or send any commands to them right now as they were. This is a tracked event that occurs at times, but they could still provide their breaks, or really their only communications down here during to this us. And we are obviously still receiving their video and their data. That solar eclipse. Throughout the Artemis 2 mission, and of course throughout today, you've likely heard the crew being called with the name Integrity. The Artemis 2 crew members named their Orion spacecraft Integrity during a news conference, September 24th, 2025. The name Integrity embodies the foundation of trust, respect, candor, and humility across the crew, and the many engineers, technicians, scientists, planners, and dreamers required for mission success. They said this name is also a nod to the extensive integrated effort from the more than 300,000 spacecraft components to the thousands of people across the world that must come together to venture to the moon and back, inspire the world, and set the course for a long-term presence at the moon. The crew also said that integrity is rooted in a shared core value of NASA, the agency's astronaut office, and the CSA, the Canadian Space Agency.
Houston Integrity in the blind. High priority PAO activities on Reed's timeline are on PCD1 in a folder imagery for downlink, and then high priority standby imagery for downlink, and then lunar flyby for PAO, and then high priority PAO. Thank you.
This is Artemis Mission Control. You heard Reed Wiseman, commander of the Artemis 2 mission aboard Orion, make a call in the blind. This means he knows we cannot call back and that he knows we may not receive his call. However, we have good communications with the spacecraft. They just cannot hear from us right now due to a forward link loss of signal. Again, we were tracking that this would occur, and we will regain that momentarily. But that call that came down from Wiseman mentioned some imagery, so we are very much looking forward to getting pictures taken from the moon today. Again, to see those images, make sure you follow NASA on our social media at NASA and at NASA Artemis. We are 5 days, 1 hour, and 38 minutes mission elapsed time into Artemis 2. In this view on the screen, you can see the crew starting to even look through some photos that they may have captured today. We really look forward to sharing these photos with you as soon as we possibly can. And the best way to keep up with those is to follow NASA on social media. You can do so at NASA, and for this mission specifically, at NASA Artemis. The view on your screen right now is an animation. This is called ARROW, or Artemis Real-Time Orbit website. You can visit this for yourself at nasa.gov/trackartemis. Again, we are in a forward as we continue to grow closer to Earth and farther away from the moon. It's all seemed to happen so fast so far. And we're coming up on splashdown now in 3 days, 23 hours and 31 minutes. Forward link loss of signal with the crew, meaning that we're not able to communicate or send any commands to them right now as they were. This is a tracked event that occurs at times, but they could still provide communications down here to us. And we are obviously still receiving their video and their data. This is Artemis Mission Control. We are in a forward link LOS with the spacecraft. We're not able to send commands or communications to them right now. However, they could send them to us, and we do get spacecraft data. This is tracked as we are on the Deep Space Network. This is the network that we use to communicate with the spacecraft now that we are so far from Earth, over 252,000 miles. We are still in our lunar flyby coverage. The crew still have a very important and very exciting flyby milestone coming up when they will see a solar eclipse from the moon, the first humans to ever do so. Something that we also have to consider when it comes to our missions and launches is space weather. So since the Apollo 16 and 17 missions, there were some solar eruptions near that time frame that could have been dangerous to our explorers. Over those 50 years since those storms, the data, technology, and resources available to NASA have improved, enabling advancements towards space weather forecasts and astronaut protection, which is key to NASA's Artemis program to return astronauts to the moon.
Across our planet, billions of people depend on the invisible networks that connect us to space. Every day, those networks are at the mercy of our temperamental sun and the space weather that it unleashes across our solar system. That's why NASA's Space Weather Program tracks solar storms from the moment they erupt, modeling their paths